Crowhill here. Today we review an IPA and discuss how French intellectuals ruined the West. Good evening, Pigweed.
Well, good evening. How about some beer and conversation?
Ah, it's a great idea. So what are we drinking here?
It's an IPA with a little extra oomph.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oomph. Oh,
Yes.
we have to get ready.
Yeah, you might have to.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So what's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking, let's imagine that we're standing in front of a cathedral.
Okay.
All right. And we're looking at the beautiful architecture and the magnificence of the thing and the fact that it took 500 years to build and all this other kind of stuff. And then I say, now, but look at the mortar between the stones. You know what's in that mortar?
No.
What's in that mortar is the blood and sweat of the oppressed people who were forced to build this cathedral.
And you're killing the mood. You're killing the vibe here while I'm trying to take in.
Yes.
That's what the French do.
That's what the French do. Right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah. Okay, so this is Flying Dog Double Dog IPA Double Dog 18 Triple IPA.
I know they actually called it Triple Dog there, yeah.
I know it should be.
Double Dog.
Why Double Dog? But it's 4 years old, so it should have mellowed out a bit.
I bet a fresh Double Dog
would just
brutal.
burn. Would be burnt. Yeah, it would be too hot. So this one has been on the shelf for 4 years. What do you think?
I say, yeah, that's the heat is there, but it's not the kind that you recoil from. You know.
No, it's not. It's not the kind of heat. It's when you get one of these really strong beers and you drink it too soon, it just has an uncomfortable heat to it.
What, you gave it a couple of months to cool down?
4 years. 4 years.
Okay.
So, and this one it has a molassesy kind of a flavor to it. Yeah, very strong.
Very strong and like almost. I think maybe over the 4 years, some of the hoppiness is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like style-wise, I might think it's a strong ale.
Right. It doesn't taste like an IPA. No.
Yeah, I think maybe it hopped itself out.
It tastes like a barley wine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good. I don't want to drink two of them, but I don't even want to drink one of them. We're each drinking a half.
We're splitting. Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay, very well done. I think I have a couple more of these in the basement. So,
okay.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Every 6
All right.
months.
So the French. Why are we picking on the French?
So I came across this French Twitter account.
Yeah.
Of course, it's translated, so
Mm-hmm.
I just know by his name. And we read from one of his a few weeks ago on the show on racism on how the left found this secret weapon.
Yeah.
And they've been bludgeoning people ever since with the accusation of but this is more of an apology letter.
Okay.
Yes. He just says right up front, I want to offer my apologies on behalf of the French for having given birth to French theory, which in turn gave birth to the worst of all ideological monstrosities, wokeism.
Okay.
And then so he briefly kind of goes through how wokeism was born out of French postmodernism.
Yeah, but
right?
first, he's got to defend France a little bit. So he says, well, wait a minute. We gave the world Descartes, Pascal, Tocqueville, so there are some serious guys, not to mention Charles Martel and, some other French people who actually did some great things for the West.
Who defended the West. In fact, with Charlemagne, created the West.
Right. So I mean, nowadays we like to pick on the French, but the French were pretty serious people.
Yes. And I would say, post-World War II, or actually from the 60s onward, positively useless.
Yeah. So, from before World War II onward, they were useless against the Nazis.
So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, but up until then, the French were substantial, serious, formidable people. So, and also a strong tradition of intellectual discourse in France.
Oh, yeah. They definitely, from the Enlightenment on, have, really carried the intellectual advancement of the West.
Yeah.
And so,
But
then,
then we get these guys.
Then we get here. So, then came the three Foucault Derrida and
Lyotard.
Lyotard.
Okay. Not spelled like the lady's garment, but spelled Lyotard.
Yeah, might as well be. And he says we must understand what they did. Foucault taught that truth does not exist, that there are only power relations disguised as knowledge, that science, reason, justice, the medical institution, the school, the prison, sexuality, everything is just a staging of domination.
Mm-hmm.
Here, and we'll get into this.
I'm going to push back on one part of that, but later on. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to come to their defense a little bit, saying that I don't think they were setting out to ruin the West.
Yeah.
But other people took these ideas and ran with them in all kinds of different directions. Mm-hmm. And these are the different directions.
Okay. Judith Butler reads Foucault and invents performative gender. Edward Said reads Foucault and invents academic post-colonialism. Kimberlé Crenshaw inherits the framework and invents intersectionality. At every step, the matrix is French. There is no truth, there is only power, so every hierarchy is subject, every institution is oppressive, every norm is violence, every identity is constructed and thus negotiable, every majority is guilty.
So you can see the framework here of the monstrosity of wokeism.
Right.
It's crap. This is for one simple reason, and it must be stated calmly. A civilization stands on three pillars: the belief that there exists a truth accessible through reason, the belief that there exists a good distinct from evil, and the belief that there exists a heritage to be transmitted. Mm-hmm. French theory set out to dynamite all three. Mm-hmm. An entire generation learned to deconstruct and never learned to build. An entire generation knows how to suspect and no longer knows how to admire. An entire generation sees power everywhere and beauty nowhere.
Right. So I agree predominantly with what he's saying. The one thing I'm going to push back on is I don't think that these guys actually didn't believe there was any truth. I think rather that they believed that the truth was so hidden and veiled and dominated by other things that the other things were more important.
Yeah.
That power structures were more important and all these other, so I'm not sure that if you pressed them, I don't think they would say no, there's no truth. I mean, come on, they're not children, right? So only an idiot would say something like there's no truth.
I think it's, as he says in this early part, that they are, it's academic fun is what it is for them. That I think that you've got these guys in the Sorbonne and they're at the coffee shops and speaking basically unintelligibly to anybody else except each other.
Yeah.
But that's enough to maintain your status at the university and get lecturing series. I don't really think that they thought it was going to.
Have you ever met anybody like that who's very intelligent, but whenever they speak, it sounds like gibberish, and you really can't understand what the heck they're saying?
Well, try reading Foucault.
We did read Foucault.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but
I tried. Anyway.
But I worked with a woman who was like that, and it's like, come on, what in the heck are you saying? But yes, I agree that they didn't not believe in truth, but the consequence of their thought led to people not believing in truth, thinking that truth is less important than power dynamics and other kinds of things, and that's we get all this mess.
And that is seeing everything through power dynamics is really Marxist. I mean, it's really almost 100 years old at this point. That's all. All relationships are. Even, between men and women, it's just
power.
It's just everything.
There's the oppressor and the oppressed.
That's it.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking about that in terms of, the song, The Girl from Ipanema?
Yeah.
Yeah, great song. And there's this line that says, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. Now, who has power in that
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this idea of reducing everything to the man has power and the woman is the oppressed one, it's so childish and stupid.
Yeah.
You wonder how a serious person could believe that. Men and women have power in different respects in different times.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's go to modernism before we talk about postmodernism.
Okay.
Postmodernism, just think of the Enlightenment, right? Think of reason and science and rationality, and through these things you can get to the truth, right? It's you leave your ego at the door, leave your biases at the door, follow the science wherever it may lead, and it will lead to truth because you're not influencing it by any other factors. The postmodernists would say, the postmodernists would say, you can never leave your biases at the door. You know what I mean? You're always going to filter, and this is true, you're always going to filter your experience through the age you live in, the country you live in, your economic status,
and to some extent,
race,
and to some extent, what the consequences would be of a certain conclusion, right? So a lot of people they study something and they start to go towards a certain position and they realize, oh, that would lead to this.
That might cost me in my academic position if I were to come out with this. So it's not that they, but that's more in the social sciences. But you would think that if you're studying the motion of the atoms or something, you know what I mean? Nothing else is going to get in the way, and so that's not. That's legitimate criticism, but to a point.
Yes, because culture requires the idea that by looking for the truth, we can find it. Because, how are you going to have a trial if you don't believe that by examining the evidence and applying logic and searching for the truth, we're going to find it and we're going to put the guilty person in jail? A culture can't exist without the understanding that by looking at things and using logic and reason and analysis that you can come to the truth, or at least something very close to it.
Yes. You had exactly. I was thinking, what if you were like a committed determinist? You're like, there is no free will.
Right.
You got to live your life as if you do.
Right.
So you know what I mean? So in the same sense, even if you sort of academically said that there's no truth out there.
Right.
Well, that's not how a society can't live like that. A person can't go through life like that.
No, you can't.
And so but where do you think this gets you? This gets you to everything is subjective. There's the my truth is born out of this.
Right. Yeah.
If there's no way to say what's right and what's wrong, you get this amoral landscape, and it's unlivable.
No one. I remember I was talking with a friend of ours who said that the only true existentialist is a dead existentialist. Now, existentialism is a little different than this, but his point was that the existentialist can't give you a credible argument why it's better to leave the 10th floor of a building by the elevator or by the window. Okay? Right? So if someone was a true existentialist, half the time they'd leave by the window and they'd be dead. And I think to the same extent, you can't believe there is no truth. As you were saying, if I go out in the morning to get in my car, well, is it my car? I don't know. Is that true? Is this really my car? Do I have the right to drive it? I mean, everything you do in life relies upon facts and evidence and truth. Yeah. You just simply can't escape it.
Right. And so in that sort of hoity-toity academic way, you can make those kinds of academic arguments, but come on. And what's the harm in just being a philosophical blowhard? Well, because you get a bunch of dummies in American universities who take it and run with it. How about the idea of fragmentation? That is them pushing back on the idea that a like-minded, homogeneous society is more functioning than a fragmented one. Okay. And so what they're saying is, as a postmodernist would say, having a bunch of everybody's going to have a kind of a narrow belief set.
Yeah.
And if everybody is 100% on the same page, well, you just get stagnation, right? You don't get innovation. When they talk about the Renaissance, bringing in fresh ideas from other places and stuff like that. So in a sense, as opposed to narrow bias perspectives, fragmentation, in a sense, makes a society better. But where do you go if you push that a little bit further?
Yeah. Well, a lot of these things are a matter of...
You get multiculturalism, and diversity is our strength.
Right.
It's like, no. Yes, at the margins, you need some pushing back, but dumb people take that idea, which is not entirely wrong,
right?
The fragmentation idea, and they push it to the point where it's ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of things in life are like that, where, yes, that's true, but you have to keep it within certain bounds.
Yes.
And it's a matter of not going too far with something. If you say, have a totally homogenous society, which of course is impossible. You're never going to attain such a thing. So the idea is just ridiculous. But if you
everybody agrees on everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when's that going to happen? That's never happened. It's never going to happen. But yes, you need to have other ideas to have progress. But how much of that do you need? Are you going to have everybody have a different idea about what the speed limit should be?
Yeah.
Right. So there has to be some limits on these things.
Right. You're going to have a culture which is 10% each of 10 differently opposing cultures.
Yes.
And it's going to be the best culture you've ever seen. Well, look at London. How's it going?
Yeah. So it's obviously false, but a lot of people fall for it, and they say, and what they do is rather than... Okay, here's part of the problem with what postmodernism has done to education, is rather than questioning things and evaluating them against reality and deciding, is this really true? Instead of doing that, they're thinking, whose interest does this serve?
Yeah.
They're thinking, what structure of domination is going on here?
Yes.
What narrative is being imposed? Who gets to define what counts as knowledge? So rather than taking these ideas and evaluating, they're evaluating them from a completely different lens. So I think I told you this story once before. I met this woman who needed a ride. I was giving her a ride up to a store, and she was telling me about her class on some feminist something or other. And she was saying that some high percentage of babies are born neither male nor female, and they have to operate on them to make them either male or female. And this was what somebody taught her in her women's studies class. I said, look, I've been through Lamaze classes 5 times. They told me how to, deliver a baby in the back of a cab when the umbilical cord is wrapped around the neck, right? So, I mean, they go through all kinds of... They didn't
bring up the chance that there's a 40% chance
that it's not going to be a boy or a girl.
But the number was high like that, right?
It was high like that. And the idea that she just accepted that without for a minute saying, gee, I wonder if that's really true. Right. She just accepted it, and that's
because whatever narrative they were trying to sell, this confirmed that, and they're like, well, see,
oh, there you go.
Right.
Look at that. Here's a fact. So postmodernism has created a class of people who are asking not, is this thing true, but does this thing support the narrative?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the other... I'm obviously not going to do justice to the French philosopher. I'm sure it's more sophisticated than this, but it's the theory of binary oppositions. And all claim that he's making is that it sort of fits in with the other amoral, no right and wrong of the opposition of binary positions. Sort of like is something clean or dirty?
Okay.
Right? I mean, really?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, right? Yeah. I mean, Mrs. Pigweed comes in and says, did you clean the kitchen? And I say, yes. She says, do you call that clean? And I say, yes. And she walks away, disgusted.
Yes. There's a good scene in Breaking Bad.
So yeah, I mean, so you say something like that, like, hey, the world's not all black and white. Yeah, all right, we all get that. But when nowadays, in the way that the left has corrupted so much of language.
Yes.
Now, binary now means what? Or non-binary. Right. Or this new invented term.
Right.
So now, not only is everything, that dirtiness and cleanliness is clearly on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Now things that are clearly not on a spectrum are on a spectrum.
Right.
Right? And that is, of course, unknowingly. This is, unknowingly to the people who buy into it. I don't know. Foucault would probably be delighted that we're having this debate, or that society is becoming unraveled.
So I guess this raises a question in my mind. To what extent is a philosopher liable for the effect of his views, right? Really? Because maybe if we come to these criticisms of postmodernism, maybe Foucault and Derrida and Lyotard would say, no, we didn't mean that. Right. And they could show, honestly, that's not what they meant.
Right. These are the books I've written.
Exactly. Look at what I said here on page 25. Okay, so let's just presume, out of charity, that they didn't mean to create this craziness that they created, but they did. So are they responsible for that? Like, is it that they didn't have enough foresight? They didn't think of second order consequences? What is it?
Yeah, that's a toughie, because if you're talking about revolution, and I only mean it in a vague spiritual sense.
Sure.
And then somebody takes you more seriously than that and blows things up.
Yes.
Are you responsible for that?
Right, exactly. It's hate words or whatever the phrase. Yeah. Yeah, so that's
that's where you get into a very difficult area, where just because I said my neighbor's a terrible person doesn't mean I meant for you to assassinate him.
Right. Yeah, so the contrary to a lot of this stuff. So a postmodernist attitude is they're specialists in unmasking. The habit of mind is every institution is a system of domination. Everything is about power. It's about bid for status control.
Yeah. And libraries are racist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right, I did mention, yes, his previous article about racism is applying all of these things except for the power structure exists. Marx was always about class. Mm-hmm. They scrapped that, and now it's about race. So any interaction between anybody, when there are more than one race involved.
Wouldn't it be interesting to be sitting in a classroom where the teacher is lecturing you on postmodernism and just raise your hand and say, Are you the oppressor and we're the oppressed?
Yeah. Right. I mean, obviously you have power over me regarding my grade in this class.
So let's stop for a moment and think about the way Thomas Sowell might respond to postmodernists. So Thomas Sowell would say that all these institutions and things that you're trying to deconstruct aren't a question of one group having domination over another. It's like a long-term fought, argued, bargained, compromise that we're trying to figure out something very complicated, like how to have a society where people get along, but we still punish, like these complicated things. And we've had these compromises. We've tried this. We've tried that.
With a million moving parts.
Yes. And finally we came up with a solution that basically works. Maybe it's not perfect, but it basically works. And now you're going to deconstruct that because you find little problems here and there. Yeah. And what are you going to replace it with?
I mean, as he said, it's a generation that is taught only to deconstruct.
Yes.
Not to create anything.
Yes.
There's never any solutions these guys offer. They just say how everything is wrong. Mm-hmm. And people take it as, well, then all of those things must go. The prison system. I mean, actually, burn the whole damn thing to the ground, and then I'm sorry, and then what? Well, then something better will
arise spontaneously out of the magic. Yeah. It's very pagan in that respect, in this idea that something good will spontaneously arise out of chaos. But it's also kind of childish to think.
It really is childish.
Here's this institution that has its flaws, but it's working. Like, let's take
and it's got 1,000 years of history.
Let's take like the idea of police. Okay, yes, there are bad policemen. Yes, there are problems. Sometimes the wrong person gets thrown. All those things are true. However, We need order in the streets. You know?
Yes, but the police system was built on
oppression,
slaving, capturing slaves.
Yeah, sure.
And then they'll just repeat that over and over.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay. Even if that's true,
and B, even if it's true,
what are you going to do? What are you going to have? No police? Or are you going to have a bunch of people? A bunch of what are those terms? The people who come and try to
violence interrupters,
the negotiators or whatever. Yeah, they're going to come out and just talk with people and make it all better.
Yes, we'll have mental health officials on standby.
Yeah, so it is rather childish to think that you're going to deconstruct something, throw it out, and suddenly something's going to be better. But how about these words? I mean, some of the words that have come out of postmodernism.
Almost unreadable. Well, basically unreadable. Foucault, and I'm assuming these other guys they're all speaking their own language to each other in their cafes.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about the modern words that every modern college kid knows: problematic, social construction, discourse, hegemonic, marginalized, subvert, these are
right, and then you just string them together with a couple of prepositions, and now you're the smartest kid at the lunch table.
That's so deep. Wow. Yeah. Can you believe that? What he said? Yeah. Okay.
So the people that think this way, they think of themselves as enlightened, progressive, forward-thinking people who have these original thoughts on their own, even though they're all repeating the exact same terms in their own originality. But really, to me, it's equal parts of or combination of brainwashed victims of international psyop, a narcissistic mass delusion, and useful idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, so they think that I'm in charge. I am going to change. No. You're working on behalf of somebody else, you moron.
Yeah. You know what? One thing that going through all this material to prepare for today helped me with was, for a long time I've wondered why the West is so suicidal.
Like, I'm surprised we're still around, and won't be for long. But
yeah, but how do we get to the point where we're ashamed to defend our own institutions?
Right.
We're ashamed to say our culture is good,
the best,
and your culture is bad, and so forth. On the shelf there.
What?
Top shelf on the right. Yeah. So we're ashamed of our own culture. We're afraid to defend it. And where did that come from? And I think it came from postmodernism. It came from this idea that all of our institutions are bad. They're just driven by power. They have no meaning. They have no purpose. That language is just a matter of oppression. So once you get someone so demoralized with all that kind of weight on them, and then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, our culture is just as good as yours, and we do all these horrible things, but that's our culture," and you have no defense against it because all the possible means of defense have been ripped away from you by postmodernism.
Yeah, I mean that's how you get. Oh Lord, here comes the cat. This desire for oppression,
mm-hmm.
That's how you get Muslims who outnumber Jews about 130 to 1, and they have something like 56 countries to 1.
Mm-hmm.
They're the oppressed.
Yes.
And they're the oppressed because every time they pick a fight, they get their asses handed to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dynamic is basically whoever wins is the bad guy.
Right.
You know what we should have? We should have a second trophy that's nicer than the first trophy for the guy who loses the Super Bowl. Because clearly they were oppressed by the better team. So anybody who's a winner is actually is by definition.
By definition, the oppressor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's basically what we have here. The West is clearly the best. It's where everybody who's not in the West is trying to move to. But they're the bad guys for being on top.
Yes.
The winners are actually the losers.
Well, the only reason they won is because they oppressed. They stole and they oppressed and all that.
Well,
kind of
and all they were doing is what anybody else would do if they could, but they couldn't.
Yes. Yeah. Now there's another side to this, which is the woke attitude that words are violence, and if you disagree with me,
that's
that's
an extension of the same.
It's all the same. It's all the same thing. So, if power structures, if logic and reason are not the way you evaluate something, so somebody comes along and says, "Okay, we have this company policy that we reward excellence," okay, and then somebody says, "Sure, yeah." That's just the way that you keep the marginalized out.
Yeah.
Is by saying we reward excellence. So we're going to say you're not excellent. We're going to define excellence in a way to keep those undesirables out. That's the way the postmodernist thinks.
Yes.
So everything just becomes. You're saying that you look for merit. No. Merit is just a code word for racism.
Meritocracy, yes, right, is just as another form of oppression,
and that all comes from this postmodernist attitude.
And, right. So if you shift it from achievement to people's feelings, then we can gauge,
but only the marginalized feelings, only the oppressed, because the oppressors, we don't care about their feelings. What we're trying to do is disarm the people in power, the oppressors. Yeah. We're trying to disarm the oppressors, and we're trying to support and defend and help the marginalized, the oppressed, and whatnot. So everything that has that tinge of, oh, this is just a word that you use to oppress, becomes violence. Yeah. And it all makes sense from the perspective of... It does. But, of course, it's horrible and destructive.
Right. And like I said, I don't know what their intentions were. Like I said, I thought that they were probably just trying to make a splash in intellectual circles in France. I don't think that they imagined that they were going to undercut all of Western civilization, but they'd probably be fine with it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, Foucault was a weirdo. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know as much about Derrida or the other guy.
I don't either, but I'm sure they're all traveling in the same freaky circles.
Yes, probably so. Let me read you a summary that I really liked. French postmodernism has been a bad influence because it trained elites to see truth as rhetoric, morality as domination, institutions as oppression, and language as power. It replaced gratitude with suspicion, responsibility with grievance, argument with deconstruction, and civilization with critique. In doing so, it created a culture that is less confident, less truthful, less stable, more tribal, and less capable of defending the very conditions that make freedom possible.
Yep. Just all it does is undercut and undermine.
Yes.
Producing nothing.
But grievance and people with pink hair.
Yeah. And any kind of that the closest thing modern art, modern architecture, the death of the death of beauty is all part of the same horrible disease.
Yes.
Brought to us by the French.
Yeah. You know, we owe a debt to you for your help with the revolution.
We do.
We appreciate that. We thank you for that. That's great.
But the 20th century, you suck.
Yeah. Yes. And the 21st.
And they're a favorite to win the World Cup, and
is that
not
right?
Cheering for the French.
Well, I don't care about soccer, so cheers. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to like this video and share it with your friends.
Blue suit in the sunshine.